Hello everyone, and let's check out the sixth official chess game between Morphy and Anderssen. This game was played in December 24, one day later after the previous game, in Paris 1858, and Paul Morphy is leading with 2 extra points. Paul Morphy is 3.5 points. Anderssen is 1.5 points. The first player who scores the 7th win is going to be victorious in the series of matches and will become the unofficial world chess champion, the leading player in the world. And Anderssen said, attack, attack, always attack. And then he starts the game with playing a3. A very funny opening by Anderssen. I'm not kidding. He really did play a3. A very funny move, especially for a player who says always attack. And yet he played a3 in the opening. This opening is known as the Anderssen opening. Don't try this at home. It's not a very good opening, so in the basic principles of chess, you have to try to control the center of the board as much as you can. So we have a3 by Anderssen, the Anderssen's opening. Morphy played e5. c4, knight to f6, knight to c3, d5, c takes on d5, knight takes on d5, e3, bishop to e6, knight to f3, bishop to d6, bishop to e2, and after bishop to e2, Paul Morphy castled, d4, knight takes on c3, b takes on c3, e4, attacking the knight, knight to d2, f5, f4, g5, a very aggressive move by Paul Morphy, pushing the pawn in front of the king without having any fear. Bishop to c4, bishop takes, bishop knight takes on c4, g takes on f4, e takes on f4. And Paul Morphy played queen to e8. And after this move, also Adolf Anderssen castled, queen to c6, attacking the knight, queen to b3, defending the knight and threatening some discovered checks to the king. Queen to d5, blocking. So if moving the knight to a silly spot, let's say knight takes bishop, queen takes queen, rook to b1, unpinning the knight, b6, queen to a2, c6, queen to e2, knight to d7, knight to e3, attacking the queen, queen to e6, c4, knight to f6, rook to b3, king to f7, bishop to b2, rook from a to c8, king to h1, rook to g8, d5, attacking the queen. And this is one of the most important moments of the game. Well, Morphy played c takes on d5, c takes on d5 and then queen to d7 by Paul Morphy. Well, knight takes on d5 is tempting, but then queen to h5, king to f8, and then knight takes on f5. The king's safety is compromised, and white is winning. The rooks are not connected. The king is not looking very happy in this position, and white is better. So that was the threat by Adolf Anderssen. This is why Morphy didn't capture the pawn. He played queen to d7, knight to c4, king to e7, bishop takes on f6, king takes on f6, queen to b2, check, king to f7, rook to h3. Well, Paul Morphy's king is not looking very safe, isn't it? Rook to g7 by Paul Morphy, defending the pawn. Queen to d4, king to g8. And slowly Paul Morphy is bringing his king to a more safe place. Rook to h6, bishop to f8, d6, rook to f7. And in this position, Paul Morphy is attacking the rook with the bishop. Rook to h3, queen to a4, rook to c1, rook to c5. And after rook to c5, Anderssen played rook to g3, that's check, blocking with the bishop, h3, king to h8, unpinning the bishop, and Morphy is attacking the queen. And this is one of the key moments of the game. And Anderssen He could play a safe move and then survive. But unfortunately for Anderssen, he blundered. Well, he played a very bad move. Anderssen played rook takes on g7, sacrificing the exchange. An unnecessary sacrifice. So this was an unnecessary sacrifice. Rook takes on g7 was a great risk to take. It was unnecessary. Well, Morphy captured the rook. Rook takes on g7. Maybe Anderssen was counting the passed pawn. Anyway, so after rook takes on g7, black is better. Let's take it back. After king to h8, simply queen to d2 was the best move. And if rook takes knight, then rook takes on c4. If queen takes rook, then d7. And black has to give up the rook for defending the pawn. But in the real game, Anderssen sacrificed the exchange. Rook takes on g7, rook to c3, e3 by Paul Morphy. And maybe Anderssen panicked in this position and he played another very bad move. He played rook takes on e3, a blunder by Adolf Anderssen. So after rook takes on e3, Morphy simply captured the knight with the rook. And everything is falling apart for Anderssen. After e3, the best move was queen takes on e3. Well, there are many other best moves in this position, but queen takes on e3 is a good move. But then queen to d1, that's check, king to h2, queen to d5, rook to c2, rook takes on c4, rook to d2, queen to e4, queen takes queen, f takes on e4, but then d7. And again, black needs to give up the rook. Rook takes on d7, rook takes rook, rook to a4. The position is equal. How Anderssen missed the better moves in this game. Well, Anderssen obviously didn't play a flawless chess game against Paul Morphy. That's obvious. Anyway, let's get back to the game. So after e3, Anderssen played this horrible move, rook takes on e3, and then Morphy captures the knight, rook takes on c4, and there is no compensation for white. Black is winning, attacking the queen. Queen to f6. So after queen to f6, Anderssen is threatening to play rook to g3. And after rook to g3, there is no sensible defense for black. So basically Anderssen is threatening force checkmate after rook to g3. But he missed something. He missed something very important. And it's black to move. And Paul Morphy played a killer move. And what would you do in this position if you had the black pieces? Paul Morphy played a crushing move. He played a bone-crushing move, a skull-crushing move. And what would you do in this position if you had the black pieces? Well, Paul Morphy played rook to c1. That's check. And there is no defense for Anderssen. Besides defending with the rook, the most logical defense, king to h2. This is what happened in the game. Anderssen played king to h2, and then Paul Morphy captured the pawn. Queen takes on f4. And the game ended here. What a slugfest. What a super aggressive, unbelievable chess game in a World Chess Championship match. Anderssen resigned, of course. Because whatever he does, he is getting checkmated, and there is no defense for white. Wow. And I think you can see the possible continuation very easily. Anyone can see that. So there is no defense. And white is getting checkmated in one move, in the next move. So there is basically two possible scenarios after this position. So let me show you the possible continuation. After queen takes on f4, rook to g3 is one of them, the only move besides g3. And then queen takes on g3, this is checkmate. So after Paul Morphy captured on f4, there is no defense. And the other possible continuation is g3, then queen to f2, check. Mate, the king is dead. Attack, attack, always attack. I think that quote was a very nice quote, but that only works on normal players, not against Paul Morphy. You should not sacrifice your pieces left and right against Paul Morphy, because Morphy was in fact a very accurate chess player. But actually in this chess game Paul Morphy didn't play flawless also. We also should not forget about that. Anderssen missed the best moves, and if he would play the best moves, maybe Morphy would lose this time. But anyway, Anderssen resigned. After Paul Morphy chops the pawn on f4 and Morphy is 4.5 points, Anderssen is 1.5 points. What a pathetic score for Adolf Anderssen, for the world chess champion. Morphy needs 3 more wins, and then Morphy is going to be the new leading player in the Europe, in the world. So this was game 6 between Morphy and Anderssen. Take care and bye bye for now.